Here.
Okay.
I would like to thank all of you for coming to our Toy Award presentation. We're doing it by Zoom. They named the Mars landing rover Perseverance because they said that the people have had such perseverance with everything that they have done throughout the ages, one thing after another, and I think that's sort of the way our organization is. We said we didn't want to meet in Chicago, and somebody says, well, why don't we try Zoom? Because we have perseverance. We want this Toy Award to go on. So I will now pass it over to Kitty because she is the one who's been involved in it for these many years. Kitty?
I didn't get that. Could you try it again?
Kitty, you're on mute. Kitty, you're on mute.
Sorry, I forgot it was on mute. Thank you, Jackie, and good morning, and congratulations to our 3 amazing Teachers of the Year. For the past 60 years, the American Lawyers Alliance, I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise here. For the past 60 years, the American Lawyers Alliance has been active in its support of public education, citizenship awareness, and various service programs. Recognizing the vital role that teachers play in law-related education, the ALA began 35 years ago in 1985 to sponsor the Law-Related Education of the Year Awards. The common trait of our honorees over the years is that they are passionate about their subject matter and they genuinely care about their students. The purpose of these awards is to honor public and private high school teachers who have made significant contributions in law-related education and have developed programs that meet the following criteria. Further the understanding of the role of the courts, law enforcement agencies, and the legal profession. Helps students recognize their responsibilities as well as their rights. Encouraged effective law-related education programs in their schools and communities. And increased communication among students, educators, and those involved professionally in the legal system. We have been very fortunate that Barbara Smallwood has taken over the managing of this project for 2020. She's done a great job. And now I'm going to turn it over to Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you, Kitty. I'm really honored to be introducing the 3 of you to our virtual Teacher of the Year Awards meeting. As Kitty said, this is my first year to be involved in the Toy Awards. I had not even been on the committee before, and I had no idea what to expect. I do want to thank Bonnie Mitchell and Ann Santorelli for agreeing to serve with me on this committee. They really made the job easy. In fact, easy enough, I might even consider doing it again, but I'm not promising. No, it was great fun. And I do want to thank the judges who read through all the applications and very carefully evaluated them. Each year, different judges are selected. Lynn Insteroth, Dean of the University of Tulsa Law School, Judge Peter Hinn, a graduate at the University of Florida Law School who now teaches urban planning, and Kathy Ruffing, a retired Fairfax County teacher and a co-director of Street Law's Summer Institute and, as I said earlier, a 2018 winner of the Teacher of the Year Award. Each of the judges received a binder with all the information for each of the candidates, and each diligently did their job of evaluating them. And I'm not sure, but I think for the first time in our history, all 3 judges selected the same 3 teachers for this recognition. I would like to begin by introducing Jaqueline Pope Brothers and reading some words from the letter of recommendation that was written supporting her. I believe we'll have time for a few questions directed to each of our teachers at the end of each presentation. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a chat button. So if you have any questions that you might want to have asked of our teachers, just click that chat button, type your question in there, and then when the teacher has finished the presentation, I'll read the questions to them. And if you don't have any and you want to wait to the end, that's fine too. Now on to Jaqueline Pope Brothers. I could read the awards that have been bestowed upon her while teaching in the Salem Kaiser School District in Oregon, but that would take the entire hour. Instead, I believe if I read some of the comments about her interaction with students, you'll see why she has been honored often in her 8 years of teaching. From her principal, if you talk to the Sprague School families and staff, you quickly learn Jaqueline is an advocate for students. She is known for asking questions, finding support, and contacting who is needed to help students achieve personal and academic success. She creates opportunities both inside and outside the classroom for students to be civically literate and uses hands-on learning opportunities to grow as individuals. Last year, she began our school district's first constitutional law program, and Jaqueline took her We the People team to regionals where they won a unit award. She had the city mayor, Oregon Supreme County justices, and lawyers come in to interact with the students. Those are memories that will last a lifetime. Civics education is Jaqueline's passion, and it is contagious to her students. Jaqueline started the first constitutional law course in Salem Kaiser School District. She spearheaded the project and expresses desires to grow the program because of its application and importance in students' lives. Last year, she fundraised to take students to the Student Law Day at Portland State University. Following this experience, there were more than 5 applications for new clubs and action at the state level advocating for climate action, civic requirements, and mental health days for high schoolers. Now, Jaqueline, let's hear from you and you tell us about your teaching experiences. And I think you should be not on mute.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Thank you. So feel free to stop me at any point. So thank you so much. This award means a ton to me. Law-related education is near and dear to my heart. I'm a product of a student who was exposed in the high school age to law education through an advanced constitutional law class myself and being part of a constitutional law team. And that drive and passion that was instilled in me in the high school years is actually why I went into teaching. It changed my outlook on being a citizen in the United States, on how to interact and be engaged in the community, and ultimately what I see as my purpose in life in teaching. So not every student's going to be a biologist or a journalist or a mathematician, but everyone is going to be a citizen. And students need to understand their responsibility in order to effectively become part of our system and participate in a well thought out and understood way. I think right now is a perfect time for us to see the importance of law and understanding of rights of the individual within our society. I love teaching civics because it empowers students. They're the ones who actually strove and asked to have a We the People team at Sprague High School. I started using the simulation of a mock congressional hearing, bringing in people from the community, which Barbara mentioned, to interact with the kids and have them testify on topics that they care about. And with meeting the mayor and Oregon Supreme Court justices, different lawyers in the community at the county and then at the appellate levels, the students loved it and they felt tied in and bought in. And if they want to be engaged and excited about government, I'm all for it. So when I think about my students in my classes, the constant is empowerment. That's kind of the number one thing. Application of the law and interpretation is something we hit on often. My school district is extremely diverse. They have very different socioeconomic and religious backgrounds. However, the rich and thoughtful conversations that get to happen in my classroom and allowing students to kind of dive in and look at that application has really changed our school structure, and that's been recognized, I think, by our administration, but more importantly, the kids and their families. I appreciate people in the community reaching out and being part of our projects, our various things that we've done. We have advocated, meaning the students, everything's on them, for various topics all along the political spectrum at both the city and state level. And again, that empowerment of difference of opinion being supported and understanding the history and interpretation of the law is something that I hope they will continue in years to come. This year, I had my class of students who were first part of the constitutional law team graduate. And that was very sad because I love them. They're my children. But actually, most of them are going on to pursue political science, hoping to go into law school following. And they say a lot of that is tribute to the exposure that they've had. I'm very lucky to be supported by my school district and administration in bringing on, these projects and in these new ideas into our system. In Oregon, although we have standards that are related to civics education, It is not a requirement to take an American government civics or law class before graduating high school. So that has been a struggle and a fight, and I've been lucky enough to work with Classroom Law Project here in the state of Oregon, who's really helped support that, and been part of the Abby cohort, which helps support actually other teachers around the state in enhancing their civics and law curriculum to students. And I had a prepared speech. I'm not going off of that. So if there's anything I'm missing, please feel free to ask. But I can't tell you how much this means to me. With law-related education, I just feel that that is the utmost important thing for our students to learn. I hope that our country as a whole, and moving forward and through the support of organizations such as yours, we can continue to spread this knowledge and empowerment to all students in the United States to not only know their rights, but be able to apply and think about them critically. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate everything that you guys do. And I am happy to answer any questions you have, because again, I did not read my speech that I prepared.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate that. And not reading the speech, it comes really more directly from your heart. So that means a lot to everybody. I don't see any questions out there right now, but I'm sure there'll be some before we get to the end of the presentation. I'm going to introduce Bonnie Mitchell. She is an ALA member, has been for a long time, and she was on our toy committee, and she's the one who put all these binders together, did all the mailings, got everything to the judges, and just really was the inner workings of this whole committee. So I thank her for that. And Bonnie, you want to introduce Debbie?
Yes, it's always, for me, such an inspirational experience to read the teacher applications as they come in the mail or the internet now. You get a glimpse into the lives of generous and devoted individuals one just heard from. You learn what these educators have accomplished with their lives. I know the judge's job was easy when they read Debbie Keene's application. It shone like a beacon in the fog, flashing on all the criteria of the ALA rubric for point qualifications for the award. Debbie's a warrior for democracy, another American hero in her chosen profession. Hero. H, her head and heart, using her knowledge and talent to instruct and motivate students. E, having the energy to accomplish all her missions. R, responsible. Responsible in the way she conducts her own life and responsible for the job she has taken. And O, the organizational skills that she needs to carry out her many tasks. One of those tasks of which she is most proud is the founding and directorship of the Youth Safety and Civility Alliance. It's an organization designed to give students the ability to participate in effective civil discourse and resolve conflict of any kind. The Alliance, including prominent community members as well as passionate high school students, has held panel discussions and awarded their first scholarship, spoken at elementary, middle, and high schools, and recently kicked off a campaign for civility and civil rights to encourage civil conversations in classrooms as well as kitchen tables. Her colleague, Jan Miller, Director of Law-Related Education for the Texas Bar, has expressed her own amazement at Debbie's commitment to civic education, not only in the classroom, but also as a mentor for other teachers. Currently teaching at Frisco, Texas Career and Technical Education Center, Debbie's range of courses includes Survey of Government and Public Administration, Political Science, and Court Systems and Practices. She has served as an instructional coach, curriculum writer, and consultant, working with both the Texas Bar Law-Related Education and the Texas Municipal Courts Education Center. She's known as a team player, friendly, and always volunteering to help others. And now let's hear from her. Debbie Keene.
Debbie has given us a video, and I'm going to share the screen, and hopefully I will not mess this up, and we will get to hear from Debbie's recorded remarks.
Oh.
Hello, my name is Diana Manuel, Hall, and I'm the principal at the Career and Technical Education Center in Frisco ISD. I'm here to introduce an American Lawyers Alliance Teacher of the Year. This teacher has a passion for teaching and is a positive voice in support of students and education in Frisco ISD since 2012. She genuinely cares about students and always has their best interests at heart. She is a champion for students inside and outside of the classroom. Not only does she work with students in the classroom, but she also works with them in our community through her nonprofit Youth Safety and Civility Alliance organization. She ensures relevance in the classroom by serving as an independent contractor with the State Bar of Texas Law-Related Education Division and the Texas Municipal Courts Education Center. She is a lifelong learner and is devoted to promoting civic education to young people. It is my pleasure to introduce Teacher of the Year, Debbie King.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for this tremendous honor. I apologize for pre-recording my remarks, but I was worried I'd have a computer malfunction or one of the kids would decide to come running into the room just when it was time to speak. So I figured it was probably the safest option. I am sorry that we couldn't be in person, as I would have really liked to have met you all and had more time to visit with you. But this award means a lot to me personally and professionally, and I'm just grateful to be here and to be healthy, you know. My father passed away in February, and I'll be honest, it kind of felt like the world fell apart just after he passed. But he instilled in me a keen sense of humor and a love of learning. No matter his age, he never lost his sense of curiosity and wonder about the world, and we were kindred spirits in our love of history. When I sat for history exams, he would occasionally send me notes that said things like, "Don't forget, the Louisiana Purchase isn't a dollar store in Baton Rouge." Dad jokes. But he was proud of me, and I'm so glad I got to share my love of teaching with him. And I'm glad I get to share it with all of you as well. You know, he would have made a great teacher. He was a great teacher in many ways. But since I have a few minutes, I'd love to tell you a little about my work and why I love what I get to do every day. And it is every day. Not a day goes by that I don't collaborate with other creative teachers or read an article about some current event that makes me have a new idea for my own class. At this point, it's kind of like breathing, and information and ideas are like oxygen. Even in the midst of a pandemic, our wheels are always turning. And I think when we're into something and excited by it, there's no specific time that we allot to being interested or curious or jazzed about that thing. I think it's probably what makes me a good teacher, because I'm lucky enough to enjoy what I do, and I'm fascinated by my content area, so the students can't help but get excited about it too. I tell them at the beginning of the year that there's good news and bad news. The good news is that I love what I do. The bad news is that I love what I do. So, if law and government aren't their jam, as they like to say, or they're just not feeling it that day, they're going to have to put up with me nerding out over some Supreme Court opinion announcement or getting all excited about a mock trial we're doing in class. And by and large, their curiosity and excitement eventually gets the best of them too. And I love seeing that little spark come on in a student's eyes, seeing them kind of wake up and they can't help themselves. And next thing they know, they're participating and completely invested in the discussion. As far as what it is I teach exactly, I teach constitutional law, criminal law, civil law, government, and court systems at the high school level. And my students are mostly kiddos who are toying with the idea of going to law school one day, or maybe going into politics, Lord help us. My students are a very diverse group, and some of them I will have in class for multiple years as they go on to take my advanced classes. So I get to know them pretty well. And getting to know them each year is really a fascinating glimpse into the future. I've seen the composition of my classes change, and I've seen shifts in attitudes and worldviews and everything you can imagine. And sometimes those shifts have happened really quickly. For example, the 2016 election. The Extreme polarization during that was really difficult to navigate as a teacher. I mean, when you're manning the helm of a ship with 150 students who are all over the map in their opinions, they're politically engaged and interested, and they're emotional. I mean, they're teenagers. Everything they think and feel and their opinions are all in technicolor. I tried to tell them that the election of 1800 was just as polarized, but they didn't buy that, even though it's true. But even from one class to the next, the dynamics would change, and I was trying to steer the bus into constructive conversations. At one point that year, I did have to impose a little bit of a news blackout during class time, because otherwise we would never have made it past Article 2 of the Constitution, and every new topic would yield a minefield. I'd be like, today we're covering Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, the powers of Congress. The fact that we are discussing this in class today is not a political commentary, nor is it an invitation to go down a rabbit hole of news or tweets. Another perfect example, the day before we were going to cover a First Amendment freedom of speech, freedom of symbolic speech case, the flag burning case, Texas versus Johnson, which happened to be an event in Dallas, actually. Unbeknownst to me, Trump tweeted the day before, mind you, that perhaps people who burn the flag should lose their citizenship or spend a year in jail. Now, regardless of your opinion on a proposed constitutional amendment to flag burning, I spent all day answering questions about whether a citizen can actually be stripped of their citizenship. We discussed the 14th Amendment, natural born citizenship versus naturalization, expatriation, enemy combatants in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and even how Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis had their full citizenship restored posthumously. You name it, they asked it. It was a fascinating day, to be sure, but we still had a lot to cover about the First Amendment afterwards. But those kinds of detours, when they're learning and you let the learning guide the lesson, that's what makes every day and every year unique. No 2 years, no 2 classes, no 2 students are alike. So I do all kinds of prep and I come up with great ideas, and then I show up and see where we end up. So I know where we can pick up tomorrow. But like I started to say, working with students is a glimpse into the future, and the future is bright. The next generation of kids is smart. They're aware, they're resilient, they're funny, but they're also bombarded with information every waking second. And we have to teach them how to be good consumers of that information, how to be discerning and ferret out the facts. Civic education is more important now than ever before, and your support means the world. As teachers, we appreciate so much everything that you are doing to promote and recognize the work that we do in the classroom and beyond. This award does more than honor individuals. It illustrates that we are committed to this work, not just me, but we. And I'm honored to stand shoulder to shoulder with these other great teachers and yourselves in this cause. Thank you.
Wow. Very good.
That's great. Thank you, Debbie. Do you want to add anything to that, or are you comfortable with that? That was a great presentation.
No, it's horrible to watch yourself like replayed. By the way, I hate listening to myself, but I am glad I pre-recorded it because my one of my older kiddos is apparently doing a marching band in the living room via a Zoom conference, and so you might have had to listen to a tuba in the background if I were to speak live.
I do have one question that somebody would like to ask Jaqueline. Can you name a couple of the topics that your students have been excited about?
Hi. Yes. So they've been excited about a lot, and going off of what was just shared, there's been so much rich content in the last 4 years, especially. It's been extremely fun to talk about the interpretation and application of the Constitution. One thing, or I'm going to name off a few. The first is internet censorship. So kids are on their phones all the time, tweeting, taking pictures, sending each other messages. And so a really hot topic that came up the last 2 years is, when can the school intervene? When is it appropriate for them to take action against students when they are tweeting or cyberbullying or saying something that may be seen as derogatory? If it's outside of school hours versus inside, obscenity, what does that look like? And then, of course, freedom of speech, and how that varies from within the schools themselves. Also, following the election of 2016, here in Oregon, we have a large Hispanic population within our state. And we also have a large, I would say, more conservative rural population. You see the state go blue when we vote because of the hubs of Eugene and Portland, but it doesn't mean that we are a purple state. So after the election, and because of a lot of the racial tensions within the state, some students started to wear some things to school that were brought to the attention of the courts. Saying, build the wall. Are you allowed to wear that in school or not? There was some action taken at Liberty High School, which is nearby. And so it became a huge deal. The students' right was actually upheld when the parents and families sued the school district for that right, having the teacher kick them out of class. But that sort of thing gets kids excited because, again, that directly applies to them and what rights and powers they have. The right to privacy is also something that comes up often. And actually, we were talking about it last year regarding measles and vaccinations and requirements for that. In Southern Oregon, there's a small population that is extremely vocal about being against any sort of government mandate or requirement for vaccinations. And exemptions are different in every state. But that's something that we also talked about and looked into. And it's very interesting now with COVID-19, because I have students reaching out to me via email talking about their experience and, of course, applying not only federal, state, and local government powers to what's going on and decisions being made, but bringing it back to that conversation about, if we do have a vaccination, what sort of rights should citizens have in being able to choose or not choose to get that? And then last but not least, I just want to touch on with the impeachment that was going on, or process this past year, it was really interesting to hear students get excited about the process itself. I feel like usually structure and processes get left to the wayside, and they're sticking more so to opinions. And what I appreciated was really their consideration and discussion of secrecy. What deliberation and conversations happen in private versus the public in a republic? And what should be public so that constituents know what those who represent them are really saying and feeling? And so that idea of, a Republican system and those ideas being expressed was, again, enforced. And I could go on and on. Again, I teach AP government, on-level government, beginning constitutional law and advanced constitutional law. And pretty much, I have meetings in my lunch room, or in my room at lunch every day, of different clubs, all different political clubs and political action groups. And kids are excited. Doing distance learning during COVID has been really difficult because I miss that face-to-face, with my kids. But what I appreciate is they're reaching out to me constantly with book recommendations, or watch this video, or did you hear about this? And actually, with the protests that started in Minnesota, when that occurred, I actually held a special Sunday session with my students for 3 hours. And we had a big conversation where they were bringing up histories and present examples. And again, I have such a different political spectrum of ideas and experiences within my classes. It was quite a rich conversation. So that's to answer your question. I believe that came from Nancy. So thank you for asking. And if any more questions arise, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I think it's interesting. Most of us on the call are at least grandmother age. I don't know that we have any young parent age in our group, but it's really interesting to hear the perspective, because we don't always get that from our end of the spectrum. So it's really nice to hear what the students are interested in. So Ann Santarelli is our third member of the committee, and she has been on the committee before as a great resource and a great help to me. And she's going to introduce Jane Schaefer. Ann?
Thank you, Barbara. Jane teaches at Vestavia Hills High School in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. She sponsors the youth and government team, the We the People team, the varsity and junior varsity scholars bowl, and the economics team in Birmingham, Alabama. Her We the People team have won 14 state titles and finished in the top 10 each of the last 10 years. She is a national board certified teacher, has taught advanced placement and regular US government, AP comparative government, AP microeconomics and regular economics, world history, geography, psychology, and Alabama history. And she holds a master's degree as well as a Juris Doctorate. Her assistant principal, Jennifer Brown, who was Alabama's Teacher of the Year in 2016, says this: "As a fellow teacher, I have always heard about her exciting learning activities and teaching strategies from my students and other teachers. Now, as an administrator, I observe Mrs. Schaefer and her students in action on a regular basis. I am amazed by her content expertise, innovative ideas, and creative approaches to reach all learners in her classroom. Her students feel safe to make mistakes because the overarching goal is to master the content. I know very few teachers who value simply get, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my page here. Especially in advanced placement classes. Be assured that when you walk into Jane's classroom, she will be inspiring, encouraging, and challenging her students the entire time." Now it's time to hear from Jane herself.
Thank you so much. And I've realized part of the way through this that Debbie may have had the right idea with videotaping, because I keep getting messages that say my internet connection is unstable. I've never had that in a Zoom call before, but I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope that I don't lose a connection in the middle of speaking to you. And I am gonna go from some sort of prepared remarks because I think you've probably already gotten the sense from each of us. We're so excited about what we do. And for me, sometimes that means it can be hard to stay really directly on task. So looking at my prepared remarks will help with that. First off, I want to begin by saying how grateful I am to the American Lawyers Alliance for choosing to honor teachers in this way. The recognition is especially appreciated in unprecedented times like these. There's a lot of extra stress that a lot of us are feeling. And to have an organization that says, "Atta girl," especially appreciated. And I am incredibly humbled to be in the company of the other two teachers that you have chosen to honor with this award. Going third, I get to hear the amazing things that they're doing, and being in the same company with them is quite an honor. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how law-related education is incorporated into and outside of my classroom, in hopes that that's something that you're interested in hearing about, but also because it's been so long since I have been in a regular classroom setting. It's really going to be a pleasure for me to get to talk about it and think about it. As a teacher of social studies, my goal, of course, is to help my students develop a thorough understanding of the content, but I also really want to inspire them about the importance of their role within our political system. With so many challenges facing us, it can sometimes be disheartening or overwhelming. But I believe my students know that I'm being sincere when I tell them I am confident in their ability to meet the challenges that lie ahead. They know from the beginning of the school year, when I celebrate the summer birthdays, that I am passionate about their participation in the political process. I teach predominantly seniors who will have turned 18. A few of them have turned 18 by the beginning of the school year. So right off the bat, I'm talking to them about voting. Everybody gets a birthday card. And when they turn 18, a lot of them on their birthday, so it's a celebration that day in class, that includes information about how to register. And it gets to the point that the students who haven't turned 18 yet are jealous and sort of complain, but I let them know there are other elections coming up and their chance to participate will be coming soon. I also try to model for them what you can do when you feel really passionate about issues. I try to be really careful to avoid expressing opinions about any controversial issues, but I feel pretty safe with certain issues. So you could ask any of my students my thoughts on the penny. I think it should be abolished, and I have very specific reasons for that. I'm not alone, but it's not really an issue that a ton of people talk about. And I talk to them about how I've contacted political officials about it, the responses that I've got. I show them the letter that I received from Richard Shelby, who said his committee was considering looking into that. And it seems a bit silly, but it's something that I can be really, really passionate about. No, I'm not stepping on any toes. And it lets me show them voting, that's where we got to start. But there are other ways you can participate as well. Just as a, sort of an aside, in the last year or so, I've started telling them that I actually think I advocate eliminating the nickel and maybe even dimes as well. And I feel rather vindicated given the recent coin shortage. If they had done it, maybe they wouldn't have so many problems. Since I am also, for my AP government teacher, for my AP government students, excuse me, I'm also their AP micro teacher. And so it's a nice way for me to tie government and economics together during the course of the year. Our We the People mock congressional hearing team is an especially great opportunity for me to go even further into the study of the Constitution. And I refer to it as studying the Constitution and case law and history with the students, because the preparation that my students do for our competition hearings is so impressive. Every year I come away from the experience having increased my own knowledge of it. These are kids that I can actually, and I don't know if you guys will know what I'm talking about, but these are kids that I can actually talk to about playing fantasy SCOTUS. Some people do fantasy baseball, but you can actually do this fantasy game where you predict the outcome of Supreme Court cases and how each of the justices will vote. With that, and these kids I can talk to about that without having them thinking I'm out of my mind. They think they want to play too. They're that passionate about it. Outside of the classroom, I co-sponsor the Youth in Government program at our school, which we just started about 5 years ago. In the fall, students compete as part of mock trial teams in the state youth judicial competition. And we have had the privilege to bring students to the national competition, which is in Chicago. We actually had a team qualify for that competition this year. And so I would have been in Chicago this week competing in that. Unfortunately, it had to be canceled. And while missing that has been a tremendous disappointment to both me and the kids who would have participated, we have decided to expand our program to include the Empire mock trial competition. So we're always looking for new opportunities to get our kids involved in these things. And that's going to be done virtually this fall. So we're definitely going to get to do that. We also bring students to youth legislature in the spring, and these things happen in our state capital of Montgomery, which involves the students in writing legislation, and then they debate the bills in committee and then on the floor of the House or the Senate. We've had a number of students chosen to go to the Congress on National Affairs, where they work with and get inspired by young people from all over the country. The youth legislature is completely student run. They elect a youth governor, youth lieutenant governor. They have president pro tem of the Senate, all those positions. We've had students serve in those positions. And so it's very much a student run organization. And in the state of Alabama, we have a tremendous number of public officials who actually sort of got a taste for public service as part of this youth program. And so we're hoping to bring that to as many of our kids as possible. And in addition to it just being a wonderful program in general, it also allows my co-teacher and I to work with students that we don't maybe have the opportunity to work with because they're not in our classes, because this is a school-wide thing. And the students who start as freshmen almost always end up staying with the program for all 4 years of high school. And for many of them, it doesn't end there. We have a number of students who've served in student government, even as student government presidents in college. And we have a lot of former students who are actually competing as a part of their college mock trial teams. And they develop a love for it, and hopefully it becomes a lifelong thing. But whether my students choose to become doctors or engineers or lawyers or senior legislative assistant to a member of Congress, we have one of those, they hopefully leave our school understanding the importance of their role in our political system and are excited about playing that role. I absolutely love what I do, and I do it to help ensure that our next generations of leaders are well informed and excited about the opportunities available to them to make a difference. But it's awfully nice to also be recognized for my efforts. Thank you again for making me feel so appreciated.
Jane, we have a question, and this we would like to ask each of our teachers this. Are your schools going to start with an in-person format this fall? Are you going to be virtual? Are you going to be both? Or do you know yet?
We are starting back fully in person, despite really scary outbreak numbers here. The students have the option to stay at home, but their plan is a full 5 days a week in person. I'm guessing that they're still looking at the numbers. We make the top 4 or 5 worst outbreaks right now in every list that I see. I'm sure Debbie knows she's in her state's in that category as well. But their plan is to bring back in person.
When do you start?
I start a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
The kids will come back 2 weeks from yesterday. So we have 4 days before they arrive.
Okay. Jacqueline, what are you doing in Oregon, Jacqueline?
We actually just got an announcement, I believe it was 2 days ago. In the first 9 weeks, we're going to be online for all 9 through 12. Right now with my school district, we're the second largest district in the state. The plan based on numbers is going to be to bring back 9th and 10th graders to finish out the semester, which will go through January. We start in September, and then bring 11th and 12th graders for second semester. It's highly controversial just because of the socioeconomic impact. And so my guess is that our districts is going to help like with providing some sort of childcare. And there's already been protests in response to the governor's decision, because that's what this is going off of with ODE, Oregon Department of Education. So there's lots of protests going on in Oregon right now. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But with the restrictions that came out, it's that there needs to be a certain percentage, I can remember off the top of my head, a low percentage of outbreaks for a total of 14 days before, and that's like percentage of the county before we can go back. So it's like, this is the plan, but it could be extended.
Okay, Debbie, what are you doing in Texas?
Hi, yeah, we, parents filled out a survey, basically, as far as what they wanted to do. And it was about 50-50, wanted to do face-to-face and 50% wanted to go virtual. And so the district is allowing them to choose one or the other. And then recently they just announced that everyone will be virtual for the first 3 weeks in our district, and each district is doing it slightly different. The teachers will report to campus, and we will do our professional development, and we'll be teaching. Some of it will be live, like through Zoom and, you know, synchronous learning, and then some of it will be asynchronous, where we give them things to work on, and then they kind of report back to us. But the latest right now is that we've got the first 3 weeks are going to be virtual for everyone. And then after that, the students that have chosen face-to-face will report to campus with us. And those who choose to continue to do online can do that. My campus is a little unusual because we're a satellite campus, and we have 10 high schools in our district, and they all, the students come to us for their certain special electives. So like if they're taking an advanced animation class or a mock trial or these kinds of things, you know, horticulture and whatnot, they'll come to our campus for that, and they shuttle the students back and forth all day with the buses. So they'll report just for that, you know, hour-and-a-half long class, and then go back to their home campus. And that makes me a little nervous, just because, you know, being that we've got students back and forth from 10 different campuses. I'm not really sure how that's going to look if we end up with a little bit of an outbreak or something. But our district, I don't envy the powers that be, the leaders trying to make these decisions. I don't know that there is a right answer, but they're doing their best to try to communicate with us and stuff. But that's it. We'll be virtual the first 3 weeks, and after that, we're expecting in person.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting, a perspective from across the country. Nobody's doing it the same way. We do have a special guest on our call today, and he would like to say a few words. Robert Lemming manages a national network of 50 state civic education programs involving thousands of upper elementary, middle, and high school teachers and tens of thousands of students in the study of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He also directs the We the People National Finals, which involves more than 1,200 high school students in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Robert, would you like to say something?
I sure would, Barbara. Thank you and Kitty for the invitation. When I heard that Jane was getting this award, I immediately emailed back and said, can I say something? First of all, I'm looking at all these great faces here. I've been associated with the American Lawyers Alliance for over 30 years now, because I can remember when it was called the Law Wives years ago. People in Indiana like Rose McNeely, Kathy Bomberger, you might remember, and certainly Sandy Lyle, who helped me as the state coordinator bring the law, at that time, the Law Wives in to help out with the We the People state competitions. If I may, I'd like to tell a little story about Kathy Bomberger, and I think it epitomizes what your organization does. One year, the state competition was starting, but we got hit with a big snowstorm, which meant that the folks couldn't go home, actually, the people who came to work. And so it just so happened that right across the street from where the state competition was a hospital. So what did Sandy Lyle do? She got all of her ladies together, and instead of watching TV all day, they went across the street and volunteered to help in the hospital because they were stuck in Indianapolis for the day. And I always remember that story because I think it was fantastic. And I thank you again. You gave me an award in 1998, and I still cherish that to today. I'm glad I got to hear the other two teachers. I know Jane, but it just shows you what's going on out there in terms of what great teachers can do and the kinds of topics they're dealing with. I've always said it's always appropriate to be dealing with civic education, but I do agree we've got a pretty interesting situation right now from that standpoint in terms of dialogue and discussion about constitutional issues. Now, a little bit about Jane. I've watched and known Jane for, I don't know, Jane, about maybe
over a decade.
I was saying leaning towards maybe 2. I've watched her at the national finals with her classes there, and I can tell you this: she challenges her students, and they deliver. And I know that because I've seen what her students do with testimony at the national finals over the years. It's quite amazing. And that record of being in the top 10, which is no easy accomplishment for any class over time. I mean, it's not just 1 year, it's consistent. And that tells you the caliber of excellence that the Jane and Vestavia High School are capable of. I'm so happy that she's being recognized this year. I've recognized her excellence for a long time, and I can tell you, like the other two teachers, Jaqueline and Debbie, you can just tell they love their kids, and that's their motivation to deal with important topics. I mean, if you think about what jobs in America are important, I mean, first thing that comes to my mind, and it won't be a surprise to this group, is judges are pretty important, all right? If you think that the end of good government is justice for all, then you got to have good judges. But a close second, if not tied, is teachers who teach civics and government. I mean, we don't get this through osmosis. I mean, how our generations act and behave in the future is dependent, I think, to a large extent, to what goes on in civics and government classes. If you're going to rely on a republic to have to have people have the power, ultimately, it seems to me that they better be informed. You know, I've always said voting is important, but it's informed voting that makes sense to me. You know, the founders were somewhat skeptical of democracy, and they limited it. Part of that is because they didn't necessarily trust the public. Why? Because they didn't know anything. But you can be assured that the students coming out of these three classes are the kinds of people that I want to vote, that I want to participate, regardless of what party they vote for. That doesn't matter to me. It's that they are doing something that is a privilege, and they're doing it with an informed voice. And I think that's what we want to strive for with all of our students. I've been talking with lots of teachers lately about what's going on in their schools, and it's interesting to hear from your three perspectives. But I just want one last thing, and that is, you know, Jane is quiet. She lets her students speak for her. And that's where my respect has come from for her. I've seen her operate at summer institutes in Alabama with other teachers to try to help them become a good teacher like herself. And I think that's great. This year, you know, March 11th was the day that I canceled the national finals, the live version. That had to be the most difficult day of my professional career. I'll never forget it. But what happened was that 30 classes decided they wanted to do a Zoom national finals like this. And Jane's class was involved in that. And so they took up the challenge in a very challenging time, which seems like an eternity ago, but it's only a few months ago, about what they were going to do. They had prepared all of this information. They couldn't go to DC, but they demonstrated their knowledge on Zoom. And now, obviously, it seems to me that most state competitions, if not all, this coming fall are going to have to be on this kind of a format. I appreciated her effort to push her students to go for the challenge. Yes, this is a disaster. Your senior year is unlike any others. But you're not going to let that completely get you down. You're going to study, and you're going to demonstrate in front of judges your knowledge of government and the Constitution. And they did a marvelous job. And I appreciate the efforts of Jane and Vestavia High School for all of that. And I look forward to her success this coming year. I'll have to say that, you know, we want more classes in Alabama participating. I don't know if they can knock off Vestavia, but one of these days they might, Jane, you know, and that's okay. But I look forward to seeing your success this year and seeing you again, possibly at the national finals in DC or on Zoom. I don't know what's going to happen yet. No one does. So congratulations to all three teachers. And thank you so much to the American Lawyers Alliance for its support of civic education that I know personally for now over 30 years. It's fantastic. And as I think one of the teachers said, you know, they don't get acknowledgments very often, and they don't do it for acknowledgments. They do it because they love kids. But it's always nice to get acknowledged. So thank you, Barbara and Kitty, for inviting me to come and say a few words to the group, as well as honor Jane and the other two teachers. It's a pleasure for me. This will inspire my day and make me work a little harder when I get off of this call. So thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and honor our teachers as well. So I think that means a lot to them because they're all involved in the We the People. So thank you for your time. Debbie, Jacqueline, and Jane, you've really made our group proud of what you're doing in the classroom. And you're the ones who are going to make a difference in our society. We can see why the judges were all so impressed with your work. Although really it doesn't sound like work. It appears like it's a passion with all of you. And I just hope you find something fun to do with your award money. Enjoy your flowers, and thank you for taking time to share what you do with us today. Jackie, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close the program out. Jackie? Jackie, you're on mute.
I didn't really have anything that important to say except thank you, ladies, for doing this. And you just do a wonderful job. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for attending today. And as soon as we get a link identified where you can go back and watch all our mistakes and